Well, good evening. I'm Camille Nash, and welcome to the Bullpen. Now, look, I've been really excited about this show tonight. But first, I want to say that in the Bullpen, we talk everything media, ministry, money, and the marketplace. And I'm so excited because tonight we get to talk about music. And if you've been on this journey with me for any length of time, you know that I have this affinity for whales. And I'd love to tell you that it was birthed out of some melodic story where you could hear the violins playing in the background, but it was actually birthed out of my own pain, my own hurt, even some aspect of abuse. But I'm so grateful to be an overcomer, which is why I built this space. I've been in boardrooms, courtrooms, and tons of social media rooms hearing men attempt to tell women how to live their lives and women attempting to tell men how to live their lives. And since we're talking about whales, I thought, why not create a space of my own where I could invite men, which is why I call it the bullpen, because bull represents a whale, a male whale. Right? You get it? Exactly. So I'm inviting these men in to talk about what it looks like to overcome. And I thought men need to hear from other men on what that looks like, on how to live a life that's whole, healthy, alive, and living, and not just surviving, but thriving, which brings me to tonight's conversation. If you've been with us, you know we've been talking about in this series all about the power of Black excellence and or Black excellence entirely. And so tonight we are going to be talking about what it really looks like to send the praise up. And I'm going to bring to the platform, introduce to some and introduce to some and present to others, that in the form of Pastor Tim White. You might even know him.
Come on, clap your hands. Everybody just clap your hands. Come on, clap your hands. Everybody just clap your hands. Listen, we gathered here today in Jesus' name to give God the glory, all the praise. Forget about the things that made you care. Stand on your feet and give Him the praise. Everybody clap your hands. Ooh, Lord. Everybody clap your hands.
That is fire! I love it.
Hello.
Well. I tell you, I am delighted to have you in the bullpen, and we talk straight here. So I am just thrilled about you being my first, you heard it first, musical
First,
ambassador in this space.
wow. I'm
So
honored. I'm honored.
Listen, I tell you one thing, I would have you, first of all, share with the audience a little bit about you. But before we get into that, I want to just tell you that this song right here, my goodness, I don't know. I hear Stellar Award. I hear Stellar Award on it, because you know what? We do more often than not have to send the praise up. We got to constantly put some praise on it with the things that are going on in our lives. So first of all, if you don't mind, share with our audience a little bit about Tim White, and let's look forward to having a mighty conversation tonight.
Well, first of all, let me just thank you for this opportunity. You are simply fantastic. I want to thank you and your staff for thinking of a little guy from Chicago, to be a part of your show. What an honor it is. And I tell you, I'm just glad to be here. I'm honored. I'm just a gospel singer, gospel preacher from Chicago that loves the Lord. And the Lord has been good to me. Been on this journey now for 25 years. And I'm just honored. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited because I'll tell you, my first encounter with you, I heard you. I had seen you kind of around the place and all over social media, but I actually got a chance to actually listen to you while you were ministering to some other folks in Florida, and it just blessed me. I said, "Whoo!" I was not only having a moment emotionally, but it encouraged me, and that's one of the things I love most about gospel music. And let's not leave out the fact that you are now sitting on the other side of the camera or of the microphone, because you are also a radio host. So in this
And I
conversation, you get to kind
am.
of relax a little bit because you're on the
Yes.
other side.
Yes.
So Tim, I know that you're from Chicago. Tell me a little bit about your journey. If you don't mind, I like to always go back. I believe in reverse engineering everything. You take a few steps back so you can then fly forward. So let's talk about the young Tim and how you found this passion and or love for gospel music.
Wow, thank you so much again. And you're right, I get a chance to be interviewed.
Yes,
So, because I've been in radio and media for over 15 years now. So, I'm
yes.
thankful for this opportunity. I really am.
It feels
But
good though, doesn't it?
it feels
It
good.
feels
It
good.
really. I don't have to be asking the questions, but let me tell you,
Yeah.
I started out 5 years old singing. My grandfather was a pastor of a
Mhm.
church, and that's all I knew. So nobody knew I could sing but my mother and my grandmother. So my first song at 5 years old was "Satan, We're Gonna Tear Your Kingdom Down."
Ooh.
And I cried and sang and cried and sang.
Mhm.
And I can remember the choir director at the time. Her name was Cookie. I will never forget her.
Yeah.
They took me out of church because I was just crying and going. And she said to me, "Don't cry.
Mm.
One day you gonna be famous." And
Wow.
I was 5 years old, and she
Mm.
spoke those words. She said, "The people you're gonna sing all over the world one day." And every now and then when I see her, I tell her, thank her so much for declaring that and decreeing that
Mhm.
over me as a child. You
Yes.
understand? I can
Yes.
still hear those words ringing in my ear. That's
Mhm.
why it's so important what you say to children,
Yes.
because it shapes them and molds them into being who God wants them to be. You
Yes.
plant seeds in their
My
lives.
God.
So
That's right.
that's how I was. And then from then on, I started singing, I started going, and God was just beginning to open up doors. And as we transitioned on a little further, I was in the adult choir from the children's choir, but I was
Yeah.
still a child, but moved to
Yeah.
the adult choir because I had such a
A
grown
gift.
voice as a young person. So that's basically how it started. That was kind of like the seeds being planted. And
Mhm.
then one of my aunts was in a quartet group, and that's how I kind of fell in love with it. I would ask her to take me to see her group sing in
Okay.
rehearsal and stuff. And she was like, "No, Tim, we get out too late. You got to go to school." I
Yeah.
said, "Please." I would just cry. And
Oh.
she took me, and I fell in love. And they were a
Mm.
quartet group, female singers.
Okay.
I fell in. I was like, "Oh my God, this is what I want to do." Yeah.
Right. So you
Mm-hmm.
knew immediately once you heard her perform. You had never heard quartets before, or that
I
was
had never heard. See, at the time, I didn't even think of them as a quartet group. I just thought they would sing. As a child, you don't
right.
know quartet different from a choir.
Exactly.
You just know somebody singing.
Yeah.
But they could sing so good to me, and
Mm.
I was like, I was just intrigued, and I just say, that's what I want to do. And they
Right.
had albums. Okay, so you gotta go. Now this far, this go back. They had
Oh,
albums.
come on. Let's go back. Let's go
You
back.
know what I'm
Let's take
saying?
it back.
So I would
Wow.
sit and listen to their albums.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were called the Shirley Adams singers back in the day. And
Okay.
man, the Lord just birthed it in me. I believe the Lord knew what I was going to do, be. So
Of course.
that's the reason why that transition. But that's just the beginning, part of it.
Yeah, and of course the Lord knew. I mean, he knows because he knew us before he formed us in our mother's womb,
Yes,
right? We know
yes.
that. So with that, you go out and you hear your aunt. Had you ever heard her sing before, or you
Yeah,
heard her
because
sing before?
it was so crazy. It's so ironic. My mom and her shared apartments when we were young. So she had
Okay.
a son, and my mom had a son and a daughter. So we shared apartments. So she was so into music. So I would hear them rehearsing. I would hear her singing around the house. And
Yeah.
then her son was learning how to play the guitar. So me and my sister would sit and look at him learning how to play. So it was just like music was all around me. Then I was at church on Sundays, so it's just like music was always around me. So
Yes.
then that's how that yearning developed. And
Hmm.
then about the time I was 10 years old, I joined a choir called the Soul Children of Chicago,
Okay.
which is a nationally acclaimed choir.
Yes, they
I was
are.
only in there a few months, but it was all kids. So when I got in the choir with them, I said, "Oh, it's more people that sings like me." You know what I'm saying? So it was
Right.
kind of like introducing me to that, because at my church, everybody was much older,
Hmm.
and I was singing with them. But you know what I'm saying? I was much younger. So I got a chance to see
Yes.
that there were some young people that sings like, you know me. So because
Yeah.
I had an adult voice at a young
I know. I
age.
was gonna say. Now that makes so much sense because you
Yes.
definitely have that old school with a
I had
little
an
with my
adult
flair.
voice all the time. Matter of fact, people would think like, "Where's that coming from?" When they see me, then when I start
Yes.
singing, they should be like, "Where's all of that coming from?" So
Right.
that's how that kind of developed. It was the Lord. But then on after that, moving on to like 13, 14, I started directing and being over the adult choir
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
our choir director had moved on. So he used to make me teach like parts. Tim, give the soprano their part, give the
Oh
alto their
wow.
part.
Wow.
Now, and so it was like they was training me, but I
Yeah.
don't think they knew it, but
Yeah.
they were.
Yeah.
And so when he transitioned, I became the adult choir director
Now,
at
wait a minute.
14.
At how old?
14.
Wow, that's
14
incredible.
years old. Isn't
My
that crazy? And everybody in the choir was
goodness.
older than me.
Mm.
Everybody. They were adult. They were like in their 20s and stuff like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I didn't start. It was just training me and developing me into the
Hmm.
journey that
Hmm.
I would be on.
Yeah.
And so I started directing and teaching, and then on
Mhm.
from there, the Lord had just began to
Mm.
move me and maneuver, and work in me
Yeah.
into being into ministry.
Yes.
Because by the time I was 16, I preached my first sermon.
Mm. At
So
16, at age 16.
16. Age 16, I was licensed and
Mm,
preaching
mm.
my first sermon. So I was in high school.
Wow.
And I'll never forget one of the lunchroom ladies knew I heard I was a preacher in high school. And she was like, how you too young to be a preacher? How you gonna be a preacher? And I looked at her in the eyeball and
In the
said,
eyebrow.
all the way in the eyeball, not no other place. And I said to her, am I too young to die? She said no.
Come
I
on
said,
here.
well, I ain't too young to tell somebody they can live.
Wow. My Lord.
Yeah.
My Lord.
So I've
Drop
been
the
preaching
mic
ever
right there.
since. Drop the mic. Yes, ma'am. I ain't too young to die. I ain't too young
Mhm.
to tell somebody they can live.
Yes. But
So I
okay.
had a yearning and a desire even then, but the Lord was developing me even in high school. And in high school,
Yes.
a lot of the students would respect me. It was like God was teaching me. He
Yes.
was
Yes.
training me. It was like a training ground. And then from there on, the ministry just started moving forward. I started going forward. And I tell
Yeah.
you, it's been a journey. It
My
really
God,
has.
I'm still just trying to absorb all of that. I mean, I can only imagine. I've got tons of questions that are coming up.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Go ahead.
As I think about it, though, I just can only imagine. You're 10 years old. I'm thinking immediately about Karate Kid, wax on, wax off, right? Because you didn't know you were being trained. You're thinking, I don't need to do
No.
this, but they were utilizing your voice because of the range and the ability that you had. And we know that it was a God given gift. And
Yeah.
even the gifts that we get from God, we can have a yearning and a burning, but we still need learning. We need the proper
Right.
training.
Right.
So I love the fact that was happening for you though at such a young age. So now you're 14, and you already know where I'm going. You're a young person, and you look good, and you're very humble and kind, and smile a lot. I don't know what your family life was like, at least not yet. But I can only imagine. Now, we talk straight here in the bullpen, okay? So,
I'm with it.
and nothing you say is going to surprise me. I've been in
I'm
music
with it.
a long time, so I will just say, and I've been on the journey with God even longer. And so the point or the question I have though is that I can only imagine that all of those folks in the ministry were not very inviting, or shall I say, open to your direction or your correction.
Oh no,
I mean,
no, even family. Cause see, they talk about the PK kids,
mhm,
pastors' kids, are some of the worst kids they say, but they don't mention that not only do the pastor kids go through because they're the pastor's children,
mhm.
pastors' grandchildren
Ooh,
get
come
it as
on!
well.
Wow.
Because my grandfather and my grandmother had divorced. He had married somebody else, and
Hmm.
it was a big mess. You know what I mean? So, as a grandchild, I had to deal with a lot of the whispering, the naysayers, and a whole lot of other things
Yeah.
that came with being a part of the first family,
Mm-hmm.
seeing that a lot of things had transpired in their life. But you know what? Today, I thank God for it. And the reason why is
Yeah, yeah,
because it taught me how to deal with people now.
yeah.
Because people are like you today and hate you by noon.
Right,
So
right, right. I knew, yes.
with that being said, it taught me and it geared me to understand that you're not going to everybody. Your stuff, your ministry is not going to be for everybody, but it's for somebody.
Yes.
And that's why you have to be prepared out here.
Mhm.
Everybody that like your post don't like your post.
There we go. Another drop the mic. Everybody that likes your post don't like your
Don't
post.
really like it. They're
My
just
God,
watching you. They're
my
just
God,
watching it and they just
my God.
liked it just because they're not really happy for what God is doing in your life. And
Mm,
you gotta be okay with that. So
yeah.
not only did they teach me how to be in ministry, but they taught me how ministry would do me.
My God, my
Oh
God,
yeah, they
my
taught me
God.
about you being talked about, being
Mm,
misunderstood, being they taught me how to do this.
yeah,
And that's why I'm so passionate about it because I know that a lot of young artists, you think that because you got thousands of followers that everybody likes you,
mm,
but that's not the case.
yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta be prepared for those that's not gonna like you, but you gotta know who you are in God.
yeah,
I gave somebody an analogy before and told them this. If you know your why, your what will fall into place.
yeah,
Here's what
yeah.
I mean. If you
That's
know why you do ministry and
mhm.
you know why you do what you do, doing it it ain't gonna be hard. Because
Yeah.
you gotta know your why. When you know your why, your what will fall in place.
I love that. And so there's so many musicians out there right now that I always think about the last dance with Michael Jordan, and he said that he apologized in playing the basketball game. He said, "I apologize for making it look so easy." And I can only imagine. I'm not a singer. Background is where I live. I can hold it and hold
I
a
get
note,
it.
but
I
that's
get
it.
it.
But I always think about just in the media, period, people that are up front or folks that put in a lot of work. You don't always see what's happening behind the veil, the things they're doing early in the morning or late at night. You just want what you see in front of you. So I know it cost you something. I'm still trying to grapple with the fact that you at 16 years old asked such a palatable and powerful question around I'm going to die someday. At some point I'm going to die. So am I too young to die? If I'm not too young to die, then I'm not too young to spread the gospel, to tell people about a savior. When we talk about you walking through those passages or navigating those waters within ministry and how to do ministry, what did God whisper to you on how to handle people?
And and it's so good. That's such a great question. I forgot. I didn't forget this part, but I was saving this part just for this part. So people ask me all the time, why are you so passionate and how were you able to sustain and navigate through that by you were being so young? Well,
Yeah.
my sister was 5 years old. Actually, her birthday is tomorrow, but she was 5 years old, and I was a year older than her. So she was hit by a car, and we went to the store. I I told her don't go across the street, but her and a friend went across the street, and of course, you know how
Anyway.
kids do.
Yep.
And she went to the store, and a car hit her and drug her for a block. Well, she died on the scene,
Oh.
and they told us that
Mm.
she's dead, this, that, and the third. But of course they had to go through the routine,
Yep.
take her to the hospital, put her on the machine, blah blah blah. The
Yeah.
doctor told my mother that she would never live. She would be brain dead. If she did live, she would be
Mm.
a vegetable. So just go and get the funeral plans together. Well, the good news is that the bad news was wrong. She's alive and well today,
Come
and
on.
living and
Yes.
alive. And I saw that at 6 years old.
Mm.
So you can tell me what God can't do, but you can't make me believe it. Because I saw it at an early age. You see what I'm saying? So
Yes.
when you see a miraculous God, because we're 1 year apart. So this is my sister that I wake up with, play with, go to school
Yes.
with, da da da. She gets hit by a car. They tell me that she's dead, but she comes back home.
Right. Right.
How can you make me believe that God ain't real?
My
There's
God.
no way you can do it.
There's no
So
way.
that's the reason why my passion grew
Mm,
so much for it, because I seen what he was able to do.
yeah,
And I remember my grandfather said when he introduced me for my first sermon,
yeah,
he said, you know, God, he's so young. He said, but I guess since he saw what God did for his sister,
yeah,
that it's nothing we can tell him that God can't do.
yeah.
And that's where my passion drew.
My God, I'm thinking
Yeah.
about two things. I'm thinking about Lazarus with his sisters, right?
Yeah.
Because you watched
Yeah.
this. Now you got the front row seat. You have the
Front
front
row
row seat
seat.
of watching. And the only other thing that comes to my mind is you can't make me doubt him. Nothing.
You can't.
You meaning whatever the you is
You can't.
cannot make me doubt him. My God, that is just that. My goodness, is mighty. What a mighty
Hmm.
testimony. Your
Yeah.
sister, is she heavily involved in ministry also? I know.
Alive and well, heavily involved, and then she had
Yeah.
her days. But let me tell you something: to just see her
Yeah.
is a
My
reminder
God.
that he can do anything.
My God. My God. Listen here,
Yes, man.
Timothy. Your real name is your birth name Timothy or is it Tim?
Timothy,
Okay, I said
Timothy
Timothy.
White, but it's
I want to
Tim. You
make
can do
sure. Okay.
Tim. That's
All
fine.
right. Just that connection, hearing you say that, I'm reminded that my youngest brother, he was hit by a car too when we were little kids.
Wow.
And trying to go to the ice cream truck. We were told him not to go, and he gonna go anyway. Just with the old phrase, hard head, soft behind. But he went, and I can still remember it, that he flew up as far as high as the houses when the car came and hit him. The guy was speeding while they had this is before they had the stop signs on the popsicle trucks. This was years ago. Now they have the little stop signs on them. Before, back
Hmm.
then, they didn't have them. So he was just speeding, and he got his popsicle and coming across the street and hit him. And I just remember him going up so high, and he hit the ground. And the only thing I remember is trying to say my grandmother had been traveling. She was in Albuquerque, and I just thought, what are we going to tell her when she comes back? That's all I'm thinking about is how are we going to explain this, that we let him go across the street and he comes back injured, and he was in a cast from his chest all the way down to his toes,
Wow.
literally in a body cast. We had to carry him around, but I just and he survived. He survived it. He's gone on home to glory now, but I do recall that experience, and I know
Hmm.
what the connection that draws when you have to. I don't say have to, but when you're privileged to be able to serve them in a way, even to help get them back to
Yeah, and then
good
even
health.
now I take care of her. Even now she
Yeah,
walks, she talks, she's all that.
yeah,
But I still take care of my sister. But the thing about it is, it's like you can't erase experiences,
no,
and that's why I need. That's what people need to
yeah,
understand. When you see somebody, you see their glory, but you
yeah,
don't know their story. You can't erase my experiences with
hmm,
God. And
yeah,
that's the reason why I love God so much, because He
hmm,
allowed me to experience some things. And now it's nothing you can tell me He can't
yeah,
do.
yeah,
I've seen Him do it.
yeah. And when life shows up for you now, I imagine that because it shows up for us all, and when it
Yes.
does, you still go right back to the word. You go back
I
to
can go
being
back to the Word of
reminded.
God and back to the experiences. Amen.
Yeah,
This is like going through a file. You
yeah,
go back to that file.
right.
I tell people all the time, if you want to encourage yourself, sometimes you got to remember where you were.
Come on.
And then you can encourage yourself to keep going to what you're trying to achieve.
My goodness.
But so many times we get selective amnesia and forget where God has brought us from.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you cannot forget where He brought you from and get to where you're trying to go. You got to remember.
You got to remember, and
You
that
got to.
reminds me of the song that he did it before, he'll do it again. I always say we
Yes.
we already had our own song. If he did it before, he'll do it again. Ty Tribbett just put some more words on it
He
for
just
us.
put it on them.
He just gave us a little thumping of the beat to it. But we all have our own experiences, which leads me into your latest project. I want to know, before we talk about this mighty song and what you have that's brewing and birthing and that's to come. How did you find yourself in writing? How did you find yourself writing music, writing?
Okay, writing. Oh my God. I never considered myself as a writer, but
Okay.
the Lord would give me songs sometimes. You know how you get little voice notes, so I would
Yeah.
voice note of it. before the voice notes, you would do the little recorder we used to
Yeah.
have back in the day,
Yep.
you know, the little tape recorder we used to buy from
Right.
Walgreens. So, of course, I would do little voice notes, but I never considered myself a songwriter. To
Yeah.
me, a lot of artists say, well, you should want to write your own songs, this, and that. I get intrigued, and this may sound crazy, but I get intrigued by seeing what somebody else feel like I could sing. So,
Mm,
like, if you get a song and you say, I can hear Tim on this, that intrigues me because I feel like, you know what I'm saying, maybe God is downloading that in you for
okay.
me.
Okay.
So, this particular song I did not write. It was written by a young man named Gerald Gray,
Okay.
and Gray Boys Productions. He produced it and wrote it. He's the writer for a lot of great artists like A New Direction,
Hmm.
Chicago Mass Choir,
Hmm.
Joshua Troop. He's the writer and producer along with his brother Gerald Gray. Percy Gray for them. So
Okay.
he wrote this song for me, and actually he's really into the choir thing, but I was pulling him into the quartet, so I want to kind
Yeah.
of merge the choir and
Yeah.
quartet together.
Hmm.
So he did an amazing job pulling it together. So I can't
Yeah.
take the credit for writing it, but I will take the credit for knowing that he could pull it off. And he did, and he did a wonderful job. And I'm so thankful about it.
So I know a lot of artists, a lot of singers, particularly, they write. A lot of them write. A lot of artists write, and a lot of artists like to get music, like you said, from other writers. But I also know, at least from my experience, what I've experienced with other people and read about other people and their histories, generally they find themselves at some point penning what God has done for them and
Yes,
their
yes. Well,
experiences, and
I
maybe they
do
don't have
write.
that.
I
Okay.
have written songs on my other projects,
Hmm.
but this is my single. I have actually have working on next year. I'll be celebrating 25 years in ministry, so I'm going to
Okay.
do a live recording with some songs that I have written on
Yeah,
this journey.
that's
But
wonderful.
I just I won't say that. Oh, Tim White is just about. I'm not that guy. I know my lane, so
Okay,
I like to
right.
sing what other people think can hear me singing. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
that blesses me. Yeah.
pretty important. So when we look at you as a child and where you are now with the seeds that were sown into you so early, does any part of what you're experiencing now in gospel music and even with this song, when we think about sending up the praise, what does it all mean to you when you look back and look at where you are now, and even with just this song?
It means sending the praise up means to me that in spite of the COVID, in
Hmm.
spite of what's going on in our world, in spite of what we've been through, we still owe God a praise. Because I'm
Mm.
reminded of the song that Beverly Crawford sings that if he never does another thing,
Yeah,
God has been so good to us. He's done enough.
yeah,
And in my singing, I always have to bring them up because they like trained me and didn't know it. It's like God had people around me that was
my God.
steering me that they didn't even know they was teaching me. So
Yeah.
the Thompson Community Singers, Reverend Milton Bronson and the Thompson Community Singers was a choir, award-winning, Grammy award-winning choir, amazing
Mhm.
choir with great, amazing songs, amazing singers. I had the
Yeah.
opportunity to be around some of them, and I would see how they would approach the mic. I would see how they would dress. I would see how they would work the crowd, do their
Yeah.
thing, sing, and so they taught me. They were like a roadmap, if you will,
Yeah.
to how this goes.
Right.
So when I
Exactly.
think of Send the Praise Up in all of my recordings, I can't not bring them up because they were teachers. So shout out to the
Yeah.
Tommy. So it means just giving
Yeah.
God the praise, giving him the praise. He's worthy of it. It hasn't
Mhm.
been easy. It hasn't been all good,
Mhm.
but he's still worthy of
Yeah.
my praise. So
He's
that's where I get
still
it.
worthy of the praise, no matter what. In all
Mhm.
things, give thanks. In
For
all.
this is the will of God concerning you.
Yes,
That's right.
yes, 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 yes. I love that. So when we look at so in the bullpen, we talk a lot about media and with AI or artificial intelligence. Do you find with the way that music is being made now, not even talking about how people mass produce the content or where people can go buy it, within the different platforms now they can download music, What are your thoughts on that? As because you've been in media a long time too. What do you think about how music is actually received today, and the impact that is still making and or able to make?
Let me say, is that's a twofold question for me.
Hmm.
Of course, I'm grateful that music is definitely progressing, especially gospel music is
Yeah.
progressing, and it's getting on platforms that it's never been on before.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
millions upon millions of people are able to get it that may not have gotten it before.
Before.
So I'm
Mhm.
definitely impressed with that. But
Yeah.
as an artist, from the artist standpoint, sometimes it can hurt us because I mean you can listen to a song for free on different platforms and not pay for it, so we don't get the money.
Okay.
So that part of me is like, should have we went this way? Because now at first it was cassette tapes, then it was
Yeah.
CDs, now it's just all streaming.
Yeah.
So people say they gonna download it, they don't download it 'cause they can listen to it for free. You know how it goes. So people do
Yeah.
what they do, and but you once again, that's going back to what I said earlier. Your why have to be in
Hmm.
place,
Yeah.
why you do it, because a lot of times if you're doing it for money, if you're doing it for accolades, if you're doing it for awards, and of course we all love all of that, but that can't be your sole purpose for doing
Correct.
this, because if that is, you're going to be upset because people don't stream. People, even if they do stream, they'll stream it for free, because once it hits a certain platform, it goes to YouTube for free and you can watch the song a million times and never pay for it. So
Right.
it's like, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
a twofold question. I like the progression, but it has hurt a lot of the artists because
Hmm.
I mean a lot of artists depended on just selling CDs on their own. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's how they made a lot of revenue from their music. But now people don't even buy CDs because there's not CD players in their car. Yeah, that's becoming almost extinct.
Yeah, they
So
don't now.
yeah,
No, if they don't have them anymore in the newer vehicles, they've got the you just put your USB or
the
jump
digital
drive.
end, you use your chord and you can play whatever song you want to play, which can be good, but at the same time, artists are not getting the money. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it's a lot of stream stuff going on different. So it
yeah.
could be twofold for me with that.
Definitely, definitely. So, what are some things that you do in terms of getting the message out? I know you have a team of folks that are supporting you with this project, and you're sharing with folks how to reminding people to definitely send the praise up, and also
Yeah.
being challenged on creating new content, and like you said, another a concert or another album that you'll be working on. Do you get discouraged along the way with the way things are now, or do you still believe and still have that same faith that because he's done it before, he's going to continue to bring you through even this season of how?
Oh yes, discouraged all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
as I'm human, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
I'm not a robot. So of
Right.
course we get discouraged, we get all kind of, especially during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a trying time for everybody.
Yep.
Didn't know which way we were going to go, but some kind of way the Lord pulled things together for me, and that's how I end up getting on the quartet side of things and
Mm-hmm.
work with some great guys. And put out a few quartet
Oh,
albums,
nice.
and it was wonderful. But it was very discouraging because you didn't know what was going to happen. Now everything is virtual, and I was used to going out because when
Yeah.
I came out, I was like in the middle of the Stone Age, I call it. So
That wasn't a
so
Stone Age.
when I was when I recorded my first album
Yeah.
CD, um, MySpace was out.
Oh, yeah.
Ain't
Okay.
that crazy? See
So
what I'm
that
saying?
was those.
So now, if you
Yeah,
say MySpace now, these kids be
early
like,
years. They
"What?
don't
What
know
is
what it is.
that?" They
Mm-mm.
don't even know what that is. You see what I'm saying?
They
So
don't.
we were going out of the cassette tapes, going into DVDs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was like I was right there, dab in the middle.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
I couldn't go to back to the cassettes. I had to go back to the DVDs, but nobody really knew what that was going to be. So it's kind
Exactly.
of like I
Mm-hmm.
came in the middle. So the way I came in, it was a little kind of like I don't even know if I'm going to make it, but I
Mm-hmm.
thank and praise God for the
Yeah.
grace and the favor of God. He allowed me to make it, and how He did it was right before my record came out. I was approached to do radio. Now,
Okay.
mind you, I had never did radio before in my life.
Now I was just
So
getting
I
ready
was
to
like,
ask you about that. So thank you for taking us there.
yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
telling you. So that's what you was asking about in between that.
Yeah.
I'm discouraged because now it's a change in gospel when I'm about to come out.
Yeah.
See, ain't nobody else. Cause see, it was so crazy. I was telling somebody the other day that when I recorded, I wanted a big choir in back of me. Cause if
Okay.
you can remember, if you familiar with some of the Shirley Caesars and
Yes.
all that, when they
Uh-huh.
would record their big,
Mississippi Mass
their
Choir, Chicago Mass
right, they would have a
Choir.
big choir in back
Yep.
of them. They would have people on the side, and so
Yep.
in my mind, I'm not knowing that you can go to the studio and record it
And
and make it
duplicate
sound
that.
like a choir.
Hmm.
But you know me, I'm young. I'm like, I think I need a choir and all. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it was just I was coming on in a different time. Well, when I was approached to do radio, I'm like, me, I've never done. I don't know if I could do that. You know,
Right.
so.
Right.
But prior to that, maybe about 10 years before that, I started, which it wasn't popular, emceeing a lot of programs.
Hmm.
Who would have thought now MCing? I'm not thinking nothing about it. I used to MC our church choir because I was a choir director.
Yeah.
So I would MC the choir musicals, choir concerts, choir anniversaries. Never thought nothing of it. So out of the blue, this community choir was like, "Can you MC our program?" And I said,
Oh,
"MC? What do you what y'all want me to do? Just introduce y'all?" And they was like, "Yeah." So I started MCing around the city,
yeah. You
and
handling the
it
flow of
started
the service.
taking. Yeah, it just started taking off. So I'm like, what? This is weird. So
Okay.
now it's called worship leader or
Right. Oh
host.
yeah.
Most people don't even have a concert without one. But at one time, they were
Yeah.
extinct too.
You're right.
So
Mhm.
it's like weird. So
Absolutely.
moving fast forward, that came on in. So I have had 10 years of experience with announcing programs, making announcements, doing concerts, introducing the next artist. So
Yeah.
that's what we do on the radio.
Yeah.
So they was like, we seen you MC, we want you to try. I tried it and fell in love
But wait
with
a
it. I
minute.
did.
So how did that happen? Was it somebody you knew that heard
Well,
you
so it's
out
we
at the
call
event?
her. I got to give her homage. The Quartet Queen of Chicago. We call her Quartet Queen of Chicago. Her name
Okay.
is
What's her
Kathy
name?
Lockett. She's on our big station in Chicago, and she had been on over 30 years. But it was like in her 20 something year when I came,
Right.
and she was like, I seen you MC, I seen you sing, and I was talking to people, and they were saying, why don't you ask the little guy to MC all the programs and all that, you know?
Okay.
So she was like, a light came on in her spirit, like, yes.
Yes.
So she called on a Tuesday. I never forget it. I was on my
Mm.
way to a restaurant, and she wanted me for that Saturday. I went in that Saturday and fell in love behind the mic doing
What
radio,
in
and been doing it ever since. And long story short, that's how I was able to play my music.
so say her name one more time. I heard Lockett. What was
Kathy Lockett.
Kathy Lockett? You want to
Kathy
make sure
Lockett.
Kathy hears that. Hears that
Yes,
love
because
that
she is the reason, and but she knows it. But of course, she's the reason, and that's how I was able to get my music played. And so a lot of people say all the time, "Well, because there's so much going on with being able to get your music played and going through the red tape and all that and all that." But the Lord made a highway for little Tim White, and I'm so thankful. So I played it on Saturdays, which was the
Yeah.
day her show comes on,
Mhm.
and the song Grace, which was my breakout song or hit song, however you want to call it. And
Okay.
man, that song took me all over the country, and I played it on Saturday. So and me playing on Saturday was a big station. So
Yeah.
people were calling for it through the week. So that's what made them play it through the week. And that's how I
Because
kind
they were
of
calling
broke through.
for it. But what okay, so what about the first time that you took the mic? Let's talk about that for a minute. The first time
Okay.
you took the mic as an announcer, what was that like for you? What was that experience like?
So you mean on the radio or as the MC? On the radio?
Well, let's talk both. Let's talk because they're two different. They have their own
Right, they're two different entities.
personality.
So as
Yeah.
an MC, it was my church. So I
Oh,
was
that
like,
was
come on,
easy.
y'all, put your hands
Okay.
together, y'all. We gonna have the next song, we gonna sing such, you know.
Right. That
So
was
man,
easy.
I knew them, they knew me, so blah blah
Right.
blah. As a
Mhm.
radio person, I was nervous because at this point, I've never done it. So I've never
Right.
done radio. So she told me, just be yourself, just sing, just do it like you would MC a program. So I was like,
Okay.
okay. So then I was like, come on, y'all, this going on this weekend, and this concert is going on, da da da
Mhm.
da. Then I said, come on, this is the next song, and such and such and such. So it was almost like I was MCing, but I was on the
Right.
radio. You see
Right.
what
But
I'm saying?
you had to learn the board, or did you have somebody run the
No,
board?
no, no. We didn't work the board. We always had an engineer. So the only
Okay.
thing
So
I
the
had to do
engineering.
was
Okay.
talk.
That's what I mean. Okay. So
Mm.
that made it simpler
No,
for you.
I didn't have to work no board. We had engineers. All thing I
Okay.
had to do was talk, like I was emceeing the program. So again, everything I did, I had training for it. Didn't know I
Right.
was training for it, but I
Yeah.
had training for it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, wow, what a wonderful way to look at being. Won't God set us up like that though? He'll put us in place.
Every time. He
He'll
said,
put
I
us
know
in
the
place.
plans. What did he say? I know the plans that I have for you. Plans to prosper, to give you
Prosper
peace, to
you.
bring you to an expected
Yes,
end. So
expected in.
everything he got for you, he's going to make sure you're ready for it.
Yes, I love that. That's so powerful because a lot of times, we are thrusted into situations, and we somehow think that God has forgotten about us, or that He's not watching, or He doesn't know what's going on. When He's got a handle on the pulse the whole time. And I thank
Yes.
you for being very candid about what that
Oh, yes.
experience is like, because it's, again, going back to what I said earlier with making it look easy, because when you're really in your lane, and you said that earlier, when you are thriving and you are powerful in your space, you do make it look easy, because that's
You
your
do.
calling, that's your gift.
Yeah.
um, those guys that are listening right now, and listening to you give encouragement, even starting from your early age, what words of encouragement would you give the men that are listening right now with pursuing and following their dreams while they send the praise up?
I would say to you, to every man, to every woman, to every boy and every girl, if God has called you to something, just know that whatever you do, know that make God the center of why you do what you do. And give you a scripture that says, Isaiah 54:17 says, no weapon formed against you is going to prosper. It never said the weapon wouldn't form, but it did say it wouldn't prosper. Hang in there, go after your dreams, fight for it. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it.
That's wonderful. Wow. Thank you so much for that. I want you to share with the audience what's coming up next for you. Anything big that's happening?
Yes. So,
Yes, tell us.
we always cooking something, right? Right, right, right. Yes,
Always
yes,
cooking
yes, yes,
something.
yes.
Yes. What's coming
Okay, so next year, April the 6th, 2024, I'm going to be celebrating 25 years in ministry as a preacher, as a singer, as a
Yeah.
radio host, MC. We're going to just celebrate that night, and I got some surprise guests going to be there. Some of my favorite singers going to be in the place with me. And actually, I'm going to be recording that. I'm going to culminate my 25th year anniversary with a recording. So it's
Nice.
going to be live in Chicago. It's going to be amazing. And I'm so excited about it. So this single that I put out in October 13th, catapulted me going into my 25th year anniversary. So
Right.
that's what we're going to be doing. Sending the praise up April the 6th. Yeah.
April the 6th. So you all mark that down. As far as the CD, the single, obviously people have their own favorite places where they go. Now, we want to
Yes.
encourage our listening audience to go ahead and support this mighty man of God and his music ministry. And, obviously, because there's going to be something that you're looking to do in the future, and you're going to want people to support you. So
That's right.
that's what we want to do, is make sure that we make that available. So iTunes,
iTunes,
Apple.
Apple, wherever they buy music, Spotify, everywhere. It's everywhere. Please support it. It's only 99 cents. Just get it.
It's
Get
only
it. You're gonna love it.
99 cents. It's only 99 cents. So you all go out and definitely download that, the music. I have mine, but I'm going to download a couple more too today as well for the support. And I want to ask you a couple other questions. Who
Okay.
inspired you most with music? Like
Who
who,
inspired me
male or
most with it?
female, alive or not alive? Who
Alive or
inspired
not alive?
you? You can give me,
My
you can give me
I
two.
have so many though. That is like a broad question for me.
I
But
know. It's a hard one.
I have so many. Like I think I named them earlier, the Thompson Community Singers. the singers in there,
What about?
Leanne Fain,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Kim McFarland, Tina
Mm-hmm.
Watson, Darius, Pastor Darius Brooks, Percy Beatty. These are people that didn't know they were teaching me.
Mm.
So whenever I get like and I need to hear something, I go to the Thompson Community Singers.
Yeah. Okay.
They all of their songs, "There Is No Way" and "Holy Ghost"
Yes.
and "Waymaker" and all that,
Awesome.
they lit something in me.
Mm.
So they were definitely great inspiration to me. Fred Hammond,
Okay.
you hear him in me. Some Byron Cage, you
Yeah.
hear him in me.
Definitely.
Pastor John Peakey,
Mm-hmm.
he was a great inspiration. Harvey Watkins
Wow.
Jr. of the Canton Spirituals
Okay. That's
was
interesting.
definitely a great inspiration to me because I used to sing a lot of his songs too coming up. So,
Yeah.
and I still do sing some of his songs. So, those are to name a few, but that's a broad question. I've gotten inspiration from so many,
I'm sure.
Shirley Caesar,
Mm-hmm.
so many artists that I've gotten inspiration from.
And I know it's hard to pinpoint. I just like always
Yeah,
to kind of hear what
yeah,
you
but
inspired.
those are kind of
Mhm.
like in my top list. Those.
Yeah, you got your go. You definitely have your go-tos. What's the lesson? I ask everybody this question. What's the lesson that took you the longest to learn?
Lesson took me a long to
Mhm.
learn. Oh, that's a good question. You're doing good, Camille. Okay.
Oh, damn,
The lesson that took me the longest to learn. Oh, you know what? Yeah. Everybody's not going to do you like you do them.
Mm,
I'm
yeah,
still learning that. I'm
yeah,
still in that training
yeah.
because I am the type of person I am. If I'm with you, I'm with you.
Hmm.
If I'm not with you, I'm not with you.
Right,
But if you got me, you get 100% of me. If I as being, if I tell you I'm gonna be over on that committee, if I
right.
tell you I'm gonna show up, if I tell you I'm gonna do this, my
Hmm.
word is my bond. My grandma used to say all the time, if your word ain't no good, you ain't either. So I live by those words. You know what I'm saying? So if I say I'm gonna be somewhere, if I'm gonna do something, you got me. So, but everybody doesn't live by
Mm,
that. So
yeah.
I had to learn. I'm still learning that, but I had to learn. That's taking me the longest.
Yes. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for carving out the time to hang out with us in the bullpen. It has been my esteemed pleasure to encourage you on your journey and have you share with us. And we do want to stay connected with you and all that you're doing. So
Yes.
we'll continue to drop that information in our bullpen Facebook group, and we'll also share all of the details once we actually broadcast all the details. We'll make sure we drop a link down below so you all will be able to
Yes.
grab hold of the music and stay tuned in to that big concert that's coming in April. And again, I do thank you. I salute you. And again,
Oh
it's
my
a pleasure.
God. Thank you. And let me just say to you, I want to encourage you and your staff. You are so great, your spirit, your personality. And I just see the Lord taking you even further. The scripture says, eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard, neither has it entered into the hearts of man the good things that God has in store for Camille Nash. You just hang on in there. You ain't seen nothing yet. You ain't even scratched the surface for what God's going to do. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm humbled. I'm honored that you would even think of a little guy from Chicago just loving God to share your platform. So thank you. Thank you. And to all your listeners and viewers, thank you so much for your love and support.
Absolutely my pleasure. Well, you all heard it. Wasn't that powerful? My goodness. Now, if you all did not get inspired by that tonight, I don't know what it's going to take to inspire you. So, here's my wealth theory for tonight. I just want to remind us all that there's a lot that Tim shared tonight. You all can go back and hear him. I learned a long time ago in journalism, don't restate somebody if they said it, just let them say it. Go back and hear them say it. But I do want to remind you that there is no weapon formed against you. You heard him say, we know that, especially if you come from faith, that it's going to form. We should actually count on these things. And so, therefore, we should be positioning ourselves to operate from a space of offense versus defense. If we operate with offense, then we'll be able to tackle the storm, come through the storm, and be prepared for the next storm. So that's my wealth theory for tonight. I do want to remind you to be sure to go over to the Facebook group, The Bullpen Show, with me, the redhead. You'll see me there. Follow us so you can stay connected. I'm going to be dropping all the details about all of our guests, our former guests, and those that are forthcoming. So again, we do thank you for joining us tonight, and we will see you on the very next episode of The Bullpen.